Hello, welcome to the Binary Core discussion on the Xbox One console launch thing.
Yay!
So we all just watched the launch and, well, tell me what you thought about it.
I'll go first then. I was surprised by the name. I think that's a silly name. I get why they're calling it that. You know, it's all in one, but I think calling it Xbox One is silly.
Yeah, it's a bit of a rubbish name, really.
I think it's a bit better than just Xbox, which was rumoured.
No,
Xbox 720, which I really didn't like.
I would have quite liked Xbox Infinity.
Infinity would have been good.
Yeah.
Infinity, yeah.
But no.
Brand clash with BT, though.
No, I don't think so. I don't think they would complain that they called it Infinity. I was like,
I could have had an Xbox Infinity on Infinity.
I mean, calling it Xbox One, you're giving it sort of a numbered denomination, makes you think of it being the first Xbox.
Yeah.
That's my problem with it. I mean, they could have called it Xbox 3 and I would have been happier, but...
Yeah, you see that. It's like when they announced that name, I decided to Google it, and most of the results so far are the original Xbox.
Exactly.
Well, because that's what it would be. So, I mean, you'll see over the next few weeks it'll probably change and have this new generation of Xbox.
There were only...
Xbox1.com isn't registered by Microsoft, it's registered by some random dude.
Sony.
He's in for a lot of money.
Just say, when I Google searched for images Xbox One, only 2 of them were the new console.
Oh, it does take time to update.
So
well, anyway, what do you think of the announcements, the various bits and pieces?
Well, I'll go first with we'll go with, let's say, the design of the console, the first thing that they showed you. You saw the controller first. My first thought was that looks like a Duke controller. You know, the original Xbox One? I mean, as in the first Xbox. See, this is why it's going to get confusing. It looked huge, like the Duke controller, but then when you saw it next to the box and next to the Kinect, it wasn't so bad.
No, I think it looks about the same size as the current ones.
Yeah, it's just without any sort of anything to have it next to give it sort of perspective. It looked like a Duke controller.
It looks like the same size, maybe a bit smaller than, you know, you can get the keyboard add-on for the current ones.
Yeah.
It looked similar to that kind of size. I immediately saw the controller and was going, that looks big and clunky. And then remembered that I always use one with a pad on, so I was being stupid.
Well, in the image,
it does look like it's okay.
So in the image that's going to be in the background of this video, you've got Don's hand right next to the controller, so you have a good sort of size ratio thing going on.
That's cool. That's useful. But the console as well, the actual look of the console, I really like it.
Yeah.
I wasn't really that impressed. That's the thing. It's like it doesn't really look so much like a console, just like another random black box. It doesn't really have.
Well, they don't want it to be a console,
Yeah.
do they? They want people to buy it for the all-in-one aspect.
Yeah,
It's supposed to look like a games console.
No, I mean I agree with that. I just expected it to look a bit more distinctive rather than looking like just another DVD player.
But saying that, what does a games console look like? You say it doesn't look like a games console. Specify. What is that?
I mean just like something distinctive, something that looks a bit different. So it's like current Xboxes don't really look like just another kind of DVD player or whatever.
Yeah, they've got that sort of inner slant thing going, and then they're not square.
Exactly.
They've got
Yeah.
a shape to them.
Say
It did just as like what was it called? I can't remember the name, like HTPC or something like that. You know,
Yeah.
like media center type thing. And I get that's where they're trying to go, but it just doesn't look very distinctive.
So didn't Sony announce what the PlayStation 4 looks like today? And from the image that I looked at, that doesn't look far different to it.
Yeah, they only released like a blur, didn't they?
It was a blur, but it was pretty much a black cuboid. And when I saw this come up, and I was like, I'm pretty sure that's the blur I saw this morning of the PlayStation 4.
Yes, but it was like there were 4 images that were just like of close-up detail shots, so don't know, can't take a comparison.
There was another image of a distant blur. It looked like someone had put Vaseline on the lens and then taken a picture of it.
But we're not talking about Sony. Let's get back to the Xbox.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because we didn't talk about the Xbox at all when we were talking about Sony's
So
PS4
let's talk about
announcement.
features and so on then. So I guess one of the main things they were pushing was stuff like upgraded Kinect and so on. The one thing that really kind of struck me about the whole thing was that it didn't really seem to be anything particularly new or groundbreaking.
I
It's
disagree,
like,
really.
Forced to be kind of like upgrades of what they've already got. I wasn't really impressed. It wasn't anything I saw that was like, wow, that's really quite different. It's just like, oh, it's like an incremental update.
Well, you get to a point where you can't really get anything innovative. Like, you'd say that the logging in just by talking, like it recognizes your voice and uses that as a password, that's innovative and new, but it's just an upgraded version of the voice control. So it depends on how you look at it.
Yeah, it's like I would expect, they were talking about sort of innovation and so on, I'd expect it to be something, quite a bit different rather than more of just an upgrade. I mean, that's what I think current gen consoles kind of are anyway, is just like a hardware refresh and some new software, but there aren't really that many new features in terms of software and so on. I thought the same thing about the PlayStation 3 launch.
Well, I think
I'm so underwhelmed by these two next ones.
I assume you meant for...
Yeah.
Or do you actually mean... Yeah.
I meant for...
I think that's because they're keeping a lot of it close to their chest. They're sort of playing a game to see who releases the most info first so that they can then up the next one. But I disagree. There was some stuff that was new and innovative in a way. The integrated TV stuff, where you could have you say stuff to connect and you've got your fantasy teams or whatever if you're into sports, which I know neither of you are. Me and David, we do like sports. And you can have the fantasy teams coming across and like seeing what's happening there. You can also track stuff that's going on in games. And it looked like you could probably see when one of your friends logs on and starts playing a game, you can probably go, oh, actually, I want to play that against him. And the integrated Skype calls as well, they were pretty cool.
It's kind of more like just sort of bringing things together, like smart TV stuff and putting it into the console and so on. So that kind of fits with the whole strategy of Xbox One.
Yeah, that is innovative in a way.
Not really.
Bringing it all together. But they're really the first to do it that way.
Yeah, but it's still not really innovation because it's not anything particularly new. It's just bringing features together.
Yeah, but you haven't had those together before, so those together is new. So it is doing something new. It may be using something old, but they're still making something new with something old.
The only new thing in it is the fact that the games console is integrated into the system. Home entertainment systems have been around for ages. Taking all of these different aspects and putting them into one, adding the games console with the voice commands and such is the only new thing. They didn't really go into much detail about how it's going to do all this, but from what I can guess, is it that all of your other systems, whether it be Sky or whatever, will all plug into the console, then the console goes into the TV. So that way, when you're saying, oh, I'm on the dashboard, go to TV, it switches to the TV input and then negates everything else. And then so that would be the, say, Sky input or the Virgin input. And then you're like...
No, I don't think it'll work that way. I think a lot of it's going to be IP-based.
Really?
For example, there's a Sky app on the current Xbox, which is IP streamed rather than external devices. It's console/media center, not an AV receiver.
Okay, but then when you're talking about terrestrial, say you don't have Sky or anything, and you're saying go to TV, is it going to go to... If you have just terrestrial, it will go to terrestrial. If you have Sky, it's going to go to Sky. How's it going to know the difference? That's the sort of things I'm saying. But if it's all plugging in via the back, all of it's going into one, all it has to do is go to that input device, and it seems a lot easier that way.
But I think TV is all going to go over towards IP anyway, because we've got the bandwidth, basically. And they're already doing with the Sky stuff. And in terms of like terrestrial TV, it's not really that big of a jump to do it as well.
I think it's going to be going through the Xbox, not going to be IP-based, because they've announced it's got a HDMI input as well as an HDMI out. So I'd imagine that's going to be what you're going to be using.
I think you'll see like a combination of both, but I wouldn't be surprised if eventually it's more aimed towards IP.
Might be eventually, but a lot of people still have the Skyboxes, because, you're saying, yeah, you've got the bandwidth to handle it, but until 2 weeks ago, I didn't. And there's still a lot of areas that don't.
No, I don't, personally.
Yeah, I don't.
But I think that's going to be the long-term strategy for it, because that's kind of the way things are trying to go. It's a lot cheaper to multicast stuff over internet connections, or rather broadband connections and so on, than it is to beam things off satellites and so on.
Yeah, okay, that's a fair point, I guess. But I think, for now at least, in the short term, they are looking at doing it through the HDMI input.
The other thing that's kind of considered stuff like Netflix, which is all streaming based as well.
Yeah.
See, one problem that Karash just raised was, say like you need to take your Xbox out of the situation, you're taking it over to your friends or something. If everything is plugging into the Xbox, you've just shut down your whole system. you've got to unplug it all. So having all of the devices plugged into one raises an issue. And I know they have that, always connected, but there's going to be an instance where I might need to unplug my Xbox and do something else with it, and want to continue using my whole system without having to reconnect it back up. So I think what you said, Dave, like it may focus more along that line, like having it all plugging into one may not be a great solution.
I think they consider that an edge case rather than like a major use case, because
I don't know. I can see it being an issue that people might complain about if that is what's going to happen.
I doubt it. Partly as well because if you consider everything like the go about bloody cloud, I hate that word. But it's thinking game saves and so on. Their intention is that people, go for Fantastic login on their account rather than taking a console over and so on. I know people still do it, but I can't see it being raised as that much of an issue when it comes to like cable. I don't think it would affect like their strategy in things like TV and so on. It's just like basically the assumption is if you're taking your console elsewhere, then they're probably seeing it as you're not there to use it at home, so you just come home and plug it back in.
It was just a point to raise because he mentioned about taking your console over to your friends. I know he was referring to the old system, first time you played Halo multiplayer, but he brought it up, so it's a point to be raised.
I think he's probably more referring to the fact that these days it tends to be online, so you
I get that. Yeah.
Skype and voice and all sorts of things instead.
Yeah.
Okay, so should we move on to talk about what's actually inside the box? They went into quite a bit of detail about the upgrades and such.
Not really. They didn't give any specs out or anything.
Well, they did give specs out. Quite a lot of specs, to be honest. Yeah. They said about 5 billion transistors, 8 gig of RAM, 500 gigabyte hard drive, Blu-ray, and practically silent.
Important.
Yeah, practically silent run, USB 3, and it's got 3 operating systems on it.
It's not 3 operating systems.
That's what you said.
Parts of.
No, yeah, but yes, but still.
Yeah, they're all integrated.
Well, they do. So it sort of says it was 2 operating systems. 3 operating systems.
2 that are bridged by 1.
Yeah.
It's basically Xbox software running on a Windows kernel. That's basically it.
Okay. I don't know that until it actually, the way they demonstrate.
That's what they said.
Yeah, that is what they said, yeah.
That's the wording.
Oh, okay. I obviously misheard it. I heard it as it was an Xbox OS, then there was a Windows kernel, and then you had the third OS, which was just the one that brought those 2 together.
It sort of integrates it all into one system.
Basically, the way it probably works is that it's kind of like virtualized. So you have like a Windows kernel and everything else, different stats software runs on top, and you switch seamlessly between. And that's how you get, like, say, your internet browser at Santana's game. Rather than having, like, a set of software that has to do everything, you have 2 sets of software and you switch between them. But it's still just one OS, really, as far as architecture goes.
Yeah,
fair enough.
The rest is just marketing.
Yeah, good marketing. It fooled me.
Okay, so they did talk about the inner sort of specs. So.
Yeah, and perhaps that's why it looks more like a computer as well, because they want to get across the fact that it is now a computer. It's not anything. They have massively upgraded their internal hardware.
And one thing I can say, Blu-ray drive, we can now run games on one single disc and not have to have 3.
Yeah.
But then again, more and more online. I wish they'd bring the prices down at Xbox Live for games. I would buy and download more games if it were cheaper.
Yeah, they didn't really say anything about the price of Xbox Live, did they?
No.
I'm assuming it's going to be the same.
Yeah, I'd assume it'd be the same.
Well, the rumors are going to be 2 versions of the console, or rather, the same version at 2 different price points. One that comes with the 2-year Xbox Live contract, which is, it was like $10 a month and $299 for the console, versus it's like $499 for the console. So basically, you either pay $499 or it'd be like $539.
Yeah, so not really much.
In other words, due to exchange rate, it's probably going to be round about the same price over here.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, exchange rate shouldn't be, but you know what they're like. It's basically, we'll charge $300, we'll charge £300.
One thing I was wondering about Live as well was if, like, say, you've got an Xbox 360 and you've got Live on that, would it count towards... Would you be able to carry that Live over to the new console?
Of course you would. I don't see that being any system. But it's not like you've got a brand new Live account. It's not like it's a new Live server. It's exactly the same system as what they were saying. So if I'm my Xbox account
based rather than console based.
Yeah,
so
but I'm thinking like
Gold account, then if you used it on like a new and an old one, I would expect both of them to be gold.
It's the
Yeah,
same as
but I
if
was wondering if, like, say, you've got the gold one on the Xbox 360 now, they released the new Xbox, you get it, you can have live and use the same live, but it's an extra 20 quid a month, or
no,
20
don't,
quid a
I
year.
don't see that at all. I see live as being
Probably
one
the same
universal thing.
I hope so.
I think it will be the same price because if you think about like the $10 one, it's not going to be $10 because no one would buy the more expensive console up front and pay $10 a month as well. So $10 is about £6, whereas was it 40 quid a year for live, so £4 a month.
Yeah, 40 quid a year.
So you're talking about probably $3.50 say a month. So it'd probably be the same price for the current ones, or you pay that extra for the cheaper console up front.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. Makes sense, I guess.
See, now they did talk about dedicated DVRs in there as well, so all of us game recorders.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not going to put our Roxio system out of business because I think it's sort of going to be sort of like what they talked about with Sony, sort of a quick capture, send it quickly like that.
Yeah.
Not like you can record hours upon hours of what you're doing and then do all your editing to it. It's going to be just on the Xbox. You're not going to be able to transfer it to your PC or anything. I don't see that.
Yeah, it's going to upload it straight to live, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's some
it's
more
gonna be,
news.
like, sharing and so on.
There's some more news coming out now as well that I think we should touch on just quickly. I don't know how trustworthy this is, but it's I'm just hearing it. Apparently, they've confirmed that it's not going to be always online.
Interesting.
Good.
And it's not going to be backwards compatible.
Ah, lame.
So you won't be able to, so you're going to still need your Xbox 360. If you want to play your old games.
Because they changed the whole architecture of it, basically no backwards compatibility.
It makes sense. That's fine. I mean, it's not really...
I thought there were rumours about the fact that you could still, because of the architecture, there was a way of making it backwards compatibility. Sort of, there would be a sort of a virtual version of the 360 on there. There were rumours of
emulator.
that. Yeah, sort of, but better.
Not really, because the processing power of the new one isn't sufficient enough to properly emulate the processing power accurately of the old one. Emulation's a really complicated topic. Basically, it's like if you wanted to emulate a SNES perfectly, you'd have to have like a 3 gigahertz Pentium 4 PC for it, for example, which is obviously way more powerful, but that's how much processing it takes to make an accurate emulator. So, no, you're not going to see a virtual Xbox console.
Yeah, no.
It's technically infeasible.
All right, fine. Be like that. Jeez.
Just ruined his dreams.
Yeah, well,
I always ruin his dreams.
On the subject of live as well, one of the announcements that they're increasing the amount of servers they're going to have for Xbox Live from 15,000
to 300,000.
I
Yeah.
don't quite buy that.
That's mad.
Yeah, that does
It
seem
wouldn't
a
make that
bit...
face value. So they're talking about switching to a cloud service, which basically means virtual servers. So they're comparing 15,000 physical servers to 300,000 virtual servers, and it's not a one-to-one comparison.
Of course not.
So it's like you might have, say, like 10 virtual servers on one physical server. So, yeah, they're going to have more servers, so to speak, but it's probably going to be running on not that much more hardware. So it's not that much of an increase in processing power. It'll just be the fact that it's all separated out into lots of virtual servers.
But they're not going to explain it that way because it sounds a lot more interesting for them to say 15,000 to 300,000 if they were to go, but they're virtual servers and clearly doesn't equate to the same amount. I mean, they didn't not say it, but they didn't specify. So they kind of covered themselves.
It was kind of intentional. Well, it was intentional. It's quite a popular way of like covering it up, sort of thing. But
Spinning.
yeah, basically it's like
Flying by omission. They never said no.
Yeah, I mean, it's like basically 300,000 servers isn't 20 times 15,000 servers. It's more like maybe 5 times in terms of actual raw processing power.
Yeah.
It just means resources used more efficiently, basically. So it's not quite true.
Okay, so they brought EA out and decided to talk a lot about sports.
Yeah.
So I kind of turned off at that point.
Yeah.
They spoke about a new engine and had really pretty graphics, but they kept talking about sports. So.
EA Sports Ignite was the engine. Ignite, yeah.
Yeah.
One thing they did bring up as well, and obviously you're not a big sports fan, so you probably won't realise how big it actually is. I'm pretty sure they said the Ultimate Team was going to be Xbox only.
Yes, they did for FIFA. Yeah.
That is actually massive.
Massive.
To have that as an exclusive it's insanely big. I don't really know how to describe it. Or
It's a game changer. People will migrate from Sony to Xbox just to have that feature.
Yeah.
What is it?
It's effectively a card-playing game in a way.
Yeah,
But
essentially. Yeah, you play matches and you trade cards and crap based on those matches and the results and stuff.
So in my mind, you just said people are going to not buy a PlayStation 4 and will buy buy an Xbox One because of Magic the Gathering. You just said a card game to me. That's how I heard that.
Yeah, it's effectively a card game, but you do play with you do play actual football matches, but you use the cards you've got.
Okay.
And you can sell them in a online auction.
Economy for it and everything.
Yeah.
It's mad.
My mind makes it sound a lot better. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's amazingly popular. So to have that as an exclusive is huge.
So what games were there? There was the new Madden, FIFA 14,
Forza.
UFC.
GT Ghosts.
Yeah, there was a UFC. I'm just talking about the sports games for now.
Sports games. There's NFL Madden. There was FIFA 14. There was NBA Live.
That was the NBA. I couldn't think of the other one.
UFC as well.
And then after that, they went into Forza.
Yeah.
Which he kept
Forza
calling
5.
Forza. I was like, I'm pretty sure it's Forza. They should be less American.
Yeah. In the trailer, they called it a Mazda as well.
Americans struggle to be less American than they are.
So what was it? 15 exclusive titles in the first year.
Yeah, and 8 of those.
8 of them, brand new. So, do we know whether that Quantum Break was exclusive or?
I can't find any information on it. I think it is, but there's no information out there at all about it.
The sort of announcement told you nothing. It was that woman going, "Why does this make you different?" The little girl touched her neck, and then suddenly we see a boat jump forward in the water and crashes into a bridge, and then some guy runs into a burning building, and glass freezes, and some security guard falls over. So I'd say that sort of trailer gave you nothing. That didn't really say anything to me.
Also, that kid's messed up.
That kid's messed up.
A kid can put a whole Xbox 360 console in your head. Xbox One console in your head just by touching your neck.
And make a super tanker crash into a bridge.
Yeah.
No, that was...
It could have been an environmental disaster.
That kid's an environmental disaster.
They're causing super tankers to crash, yes.
Okay, and so Call of Duty Ghosts. Now, there was a trailer for that out about a month or so ago, and all it had was sort of people throughout history who wear masks and why they wear masks, and it's sort of to inspire hope or create fear, and then it ends with a sort of silhouettes of an army squad, and then the guy lights a flare, pulls down a mask, and he's got the ghost face, and that was it. They told you nothing about the game, so this kind of goes a bit more into it.
I've got a few thoughts on it. It was like, it's kind of weird calling it Call of Duty. It doesn't seem very Call of Duty-ish, other than being developed by the same studios.
I don't know. They were talking about that they're fighting for their ideals. It's their duty, and they've been called. I don't see why it shouldn't be a Call of Duty.
I thought Call of Duty just meant it's a game where you shoot people and they die.
Yeah, that's basically what it means.
There you go, it's a Call of Duty game.
And Battlefield is like the rubbish version. Hey, but
Medal of Honor is the one where they want to employ Linkin Park to do the soundtrack. That's how you define these 3 games.
So going back to Ghosts, I was kind of a bit apprehensive at first, but they've actually got a decent writer on board at long last. So hopefully you might have a storyline that isn't out of a Michael Bay film.
Why does everyone hate Modern Warfare? I think I liked that.
I enjoyed the games, but the plot was shallow and
I liked it.
Pretty rubbish.
I liked it.
It's like a trashy novel or a Michael Bay action film in terms of plot. So they've got a decent writer on board now, so hopefully they'll actually have a decent storyline that actually has some sort of brains behind it, rather than just go here, shoot things, oh look, Russia, bang, oh we're all dead. That's my plot summary.
Isn't that every Call of Duty game ever? Oh look, Russia, bang, the world blew up.
It's not always Russia, but yeah.
Sometimes it's the
Okay.
Germans.
Yeah, but
Germans.
I think
Our
it-
stereotypes are based in history.
It could be good though because the guy who's writing it is the guy who wrote a film called Syriana, which is very good. It's like a political thriller, and it's a really good sort of in-depth story. So I like that they're finally looking to bring more character or more emotions to the characters, because as much as I like people like Captain Price and Soap and so on, they were still kind of two-dimensional characters defined by these kind of gimmicks almost. If they can bring some like real sort of warmth and humanity to the characters, then I think that is much needed. I think it's a sign of the series actually maturing and going beyond just being like the Michael Bay of shoot 'em ups.
I think all games have got to
Shoot
really
'em
look
ups.
at that. All games have really got to look at bringing in the emotional side. I mean, you look at the best game of last year, or the game that a lot of people said was the best game of last year, was The Walking Dead.
Oh right, yeah.
Which was all emotions and whatnot.
Pretty sure Dishonored was Game of the Year. Just saying that.
It was one of the games of the year.
It's all about creating like more relatable and more believable characters because
Going
it's
from
kind of like
characters of war to characters
you've
you
got
can
really
relate.
good graphics now, but it's like so many characters just come across as shallow and crap and well, like Connor in Assassin's Creed 4.
We don't
I
talk
just
about
Three.
him.
Assassin's
3.
Creed 3.
And we don't talk about Connor.
Or Assassin's Creed 3.
Sorry, yeah, 3.
Yeah, it's all very well having these nice flashy 3D graphics, but you can't have 2D characters.
No, I mean, if they get to the point now where they all start concentrating more on characters and storyline and giving, sort of better plots and something that's more in depth and has more thought put into it than a Michael Bay film, then I think that's definitely a good thing.
Speaking of directors that not everybody likes,
Spielberg and the Halo TV series.
well, I didn't even have to really tell you what I was talking about. Yeah, brilliant.
It's interesting. I mean, with the sort of success of Forward Unto Dawn, it wasn't a major jump to think that this would happen.
I haven't actually seen Forward Unto Dawn. Is it?
But that
It's
was the
really
Halo
good.
miniseries.
It was the miniseries that led up to Halo 4. It was focused on Lasky, who you meet halfway through the game.
Okay,
Spoilers.
yeah. So, well, that's another question. Was it good?
Yes. No, it was really quite good. I haven't seen all of it. I've seen a few episodes, but from what I saw, it was really good. And I've heard other people talking about it, and they say, yeah,
Is
a
it live
definite
action
watch.
or
Yes, live action.
live action? So it could be quite good then. It's like I haven't really gotten into any of the kind of surrounding the Halo game series, like the books and so on, and TV series and things.
It's normally something you would do, though. You're the kind of person who likes to explore the extra world, so I think
Yeah.
it's quite good for you to watch. And
It's more the fact that by the time I got proper into the Halo series, there was so much already out there that I just never bothered. Because it's quite an extensive unit. It's like I only learned today that Halo 4 is the first in another series of three
trilogy.
games.
Yeah.
I didn't realise it's not a second trilogy. And
Yeah.
I actually rate Halo 4 up there with Halo 1.
Yeah, it's because it's made by 343 this time.
Well,
And they're the
yeah,
ones working on
interesting.
this live action series as well,
Yeah.
aren't they?
Well, the thing that I found kind of interesting about Halo 4, going off on a tangent, was that it's 343, which isn't Bungie. It's like,
No.
been still owned by Microsoft, but they still did a bloody good job.
Yeah.
Which was, and I was surprised. I think it was a lot better than Halo 2 or 3, which I didn't really enjoy all that much. Back to
Okay.
the TV.
Yeah,
So-
back to the TV show. I mean, they didn't really give much away about it. Just all they said was, "It's a TV show. Here's a nice picture in the background, which tells you nothing." And here's Steven Spielberg.
Yeah, and then he just kind of mumbled a couple of lines
Yeah.
out, and that's it.
He told us
They,
that he used to play Pong.
Yeah, he told us that he was really old, and he has nothing better to do with his life. But
Did they mention how they were going to deliver the content?
no,
Or would it be
No.
exclusively through live? Or
I would live to start with.
yeah, live followed by Netflix, followed by HBO. There we go. That's what's going to happen.
okay then.
Is
Or-
that true, or that you're?
No, that's just me.
strategy.
That's just me talking. Or we're going to have to deal with another the AMC's Halo TV series.
be the Microsoft.
I know, but because they were talking about the
The
shows that they liked. They were referring to sort of the programs like Game of Thrones, how they like the in-depth story, and that's what they're going for with this.
Do you think, in terms of Spielberg being involved?
To be honest, I think that makes no difference at all. They could have put any director really on it, and because you've got such a vast universe anyway, you're gonna have something big. They just went for a big name director, but I don't think that makes much difference to it.
I kind of hope that he doesn't have much influence in it, because his latest films, they've been pretty poor.
I mean, you have the director, but he's
like
not the
Indiana
right.
Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, or War of the Worlds.
I liked War of the Worlds. War of the Worlds was good.
No, it was awful.
It
It
was really
completely bastardized the book.
Yeah, I've read the book.
It made a
heard
mockery
the
of it.
thingy, the soundtrack, whatever. I mean, the musical.
Yeah, I know.
And I still liked the film. It was a different. It was a completely different take, but I liked it.
Oh, I didn't like it. It was too Hollywoodized. But no, it's like things like
Spielberg being
Indiana
involved
Jones.
in any capacity in this kind of project is the implications mean that Xbox are willing to perhaps go ahead and start developing non-game content, which is fantastic.
Yeah, which brings back to the whole, it's the one console. They're wanting to expand, not just be that games console. It's
But they're not
the
relying
media
on the
console.
other people to migrate their stuff to Xbox. They're going to create their own stuff,
Yeah.
which is awesome.
But speaking of their moving towards more TV, sports again. But again, this is absolutely huge. The
Madden.
partnership with Madden.
I thought it was just
the
part
NFL.
of the NFL. Yeah.
Yeah, the NFL, not Madden. Sorry.
NFL. So yeah. So,
Because saying Madden would be specifically that one guy.
Yeah,
yeah.
they might be partnered with him as well.
The NFL run a thing called Game Pass through their own website, which is you can watch all the games essentially. So if they put that on the Xbox, wow.
Yeah, I mean obviously.
Subscription based, obviously. But
Yeah, I mean that's for the UK. Obviously, in the US, they've got it. They can watch it through their TV.
yeah, they can watch their TV and whatever.
So I mean, the implications for the US, I mean, for that is amazing. To have exclusive content they were talking about, they didn't mention it all. I don't think.
Yeah, well that'd be like Red Zone, which is like a highlights thing. Whenever a team scores a touchdown, they go to that. No. Whenever a team goes near a touchdown, they go to that game.
So when there's an opportunity for a score, they.
To see every touchdown essentially through it, in the entire league.
But yeah, again, I know you guys aren't really huge fans of sport, but that is huge.
Sorry, I'm watching a squirrel outside right now. It's pretty cool. Carry on.
You should enjoy sports.
Well played.
Sport in town, Dave. Well done.
So that's something really big that they talked about, but there were some other big things that we didn't think they were, well, we expected them to talk about, but they didn't. No Halo 5.
Probably
think-
going to be safe for E3.
Of course,
Yeah.
no, of course it's going to be an E3 thing, but you'd think that would be a launch. Why focus more on Call of Duty Ghosts than Halo, which has done more for Xbox than Call of Duty would have done?
That was
Because
something that
everyone
really
knows-
surprised me.
Everyone knows there's going to be Halo 5 announcement, and so now everyone's going to be like, oh, they're going to announce it at E3 and be more hyped for that. Now they know all they need to know about at the moment. They need to know about the Xbox console, and in the back of their minds, they know it's going to be Halo 5 soon, and
True.
they've got to have something big.
I was
E3.
really surprised by like the whole sort of claims about the Call of Duty franchise and so on, and saying like biggest one or whatever, and it's going to be the best shooter on the Xbox One, and it's like
It's hard to
that's
say,
kind
isn't
of-
it?
It is. I couldn't remember the name. I had to remember it halfway through, and it's like they're saying all that, but surely Halo is like their kind of main series on the Xbox. It seemed like a kind of odd way to do it all, really. I mean, I get they want to save it for E3, but at the same time, it's kind of weird.
You'd think they would say it and then say, but more at E3. Like, just end on that note, Halo 5
Yeah.
more at E3. At least mention it. I know everyone knows it's going to be there, and it will be a launch title, and they're going to say it at E3, but still.
The other thing is, I mean, they revealed Call of Duty now. In 3 weeks' time at E3, they reveal Halo 5. I know it's only 3 weeks closer to when it's released, but it's still closer to when it's released, so it's going to be that little bit fresher in people's minds when it comes to the release day.
The other thing is, like, when it comes to Call of Duty, that's going to be on other consoles as well. So it's kind of in their interest to have it revealed on Xbox first, and then revealed their Xbox exclusive at E3 later.
And they did
As in
say
Halo.
that DLC is going to be Xbox first exclusive. So
Yeah.
they were doing sort of console-only things there. You know, everyone's going to get it, but we get it first.
Yeah, but I mean, like in terms of like announcements, so if they announced Call of Duty at E3, then it would be kind of like available on all consoles rather than having that kind of push towards
Yeah.
Microsoft.
If Microsoft announced Call of Duty, well, they've just announced it for Sony by default, you know.
Well, not that, but like Sony will probably announce at E3 that Call of Duty is going to be on their console as well. But now they've got to do that because Xbox have announced it first.
Yeah.
They've got to go out there and say, yeah, no, we can have Call of Duty as well. Don't go away from us because you like Call of Duty.
My
We've
point
still got
still
it. Yeah, but I mean, not really. I mean, if Microsoft announced it at E3, that's Microsoft announcing it at E3, not Microsoft and Sony announcing it at E3. If Microsoft and Sony announce it at E3, then it's Microsoft and Sony announcing it at E3.
So the kind of the big question then is, are you going to buy one?
Probably. Not straight away.
I'm not sure if I'm going to get it straight away because I'm probably still going to be playing a lot of my Xbox 360 games.
Yeah.
But I think there's a few games coming out, like Watch Dogs, which, still seeing trailers for that, it doesn't look like it's going to run on the old gen. It looks way too good to be running on the current, not old gen, so current gen. It's not old gen yet.
Well, Sony said that will still be out on the PS3, so
Yeah, I don't know that it will.
they said it will.
Did they?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll see. But I think there's going to be games that are only going to be available on the new consoles that I might want. So when they start happening, then I'll probably go out and buy one. But yeah, like you, I won't buy one straight away.
I think I'm kind of undecided myself. I haven't really been that impressed by the next-gen console so far. It's like, I would like to continue with the Halo series because I've followed it since, the first one, but can't really justify a new console for that.
There
For,
will
like,
be
one
more.
game.
There'll be more than just the one game reason to get it.
But it's like, it's going to be kind of expensive at launch, so it's kind of like, is it worth it, basically?
That's my point, why I'm not going to wait.
The
I'm not
thing
going to
that-
get it at launch.
The thing that I'm really interested to find out more about, though, that is going to be announced at some point this year, I think, or more details of, is the Steam Box. Because that's kind of like, that changes things quite drastically.
I was wanting to end this call sort of on that, and we'll be back for the Steam Box, the Valve conference coming
Well, I
up.
think when's the Valve conference?
There isn't one actually scheduled. As far as I know, there isn't one
Yeah.
actually set up, but there will
Then
be.
there's a
They
chance that E3 is going to be first, and I think at E3 we're going to get a lot more info on the consoles.
Valve don't tend to do launches like Sony and Microsoft. They tend to announce them at things like E3.
Yeah, I mean,
So
well,
there we go.
they've never
Or on
had
their
the
own.
opportunity to announce a console before, so it's not
I
something
don't think-
they'll do.
I don't think it's kind of in their style to do a big launch like that. I think they'll just announce it
They'll tack it on the
Either-
end of something.
when they want.
I would say that they're going to be doing it at E3, but that same article also said that there's going to be a Half-Life 3, so...
Yeah, and
But
which
so
we
do
didn't
our podcast.
announce on the podcast this time.
We've just announced it in this one.
Yeah, okay. But I imagine that's what they'll do. They'll announce Half-Life 3 and then tack on the end, available in the Steam Box,
Yeah, well, we all know.
That's
it's
when you know
temporary.
your game is huge, when you're like, yeah, we're releasing a new console. But first you explain that you're releasing a game, then you say, it's going to be on this console.
Yeah.
But you haven't really
But
announced.
normally you announce the console and then go, but we'll also have these games.
Yeah,
That's
you're not having
Valve's
launch
style,
titles,
is it?
you're having launch consoles
Hey.
for your title.
Gabe knows what he's doing. He has a good marketing plan.
Sure
Oh, he does.
So, opinion-wise, I mean, did everyone see or catch most of the Sony one? Sony
I didn't
conference?
catch any of the Sony one. I read about it that morning before we did this talk.
Well, knowing what we know about both consoles, who's done better?
Well, all of the rumours that were put out to make everyone be, oh no, I'm not going to get Xbox. Like the things that put Matt off it. Always online, not backwards, all stuff like that. Even with the whole not backwards compatibility, most of those rumours have been put to rest that they're not true, and I don't think it's going to make people be like, oh, I'm going to get a PlayStation 4 instead. Xbox people are still going to be on Xbox.
So you think Xbox have done better?
But
they'll win.
that's me talking from a biased Xbox point of view.
Yeah. See, I prefer Xbox as well, and I'm probably going to say the same. Yeah, I enjoyed or I'm happier with this conference.
Like, I'm not going to
Sony
switch my
conference.
console because of the two announcements. After the PlayStation announcement and with all of the rumours, there was a chance of it, but I said I'm going to wait till this conference, and no, I'm not going to switch.
Buy both. If I do end up buying one, it would probably be the Xbox simply because I'm invested in the Halo series. No other reason.
Cool.
And so if we're going to go by invested series, we've got to see who announces Fear 4 first. Yeah.
That's going to be across all platforms.
Especially on the Steam box. Actually, it would be on the Steam box because they have the Fear.
Well, the Steam box is just going to be PC, so it's literally whatever's on Steam is on the Steam box.
No, I'm saying that Steam have Fear, so it would be.
I get that, yeah.
Okay.
I was just kind of clarifying that for our listeners.
What they didn't really get round to, I mean, they didn't say price, but they weren't going to. They just said later this year for the release. So what we talking Christmas?
I hated the way they did that. It's
Me too.
And we're very pleased to announce that the Xbox One will be out later this year.
The thing is,
Well.
the text was already behind him on the screen, so I don't think it was that much of it because he was going, "It will be," and I was like, "I can already read it, mate."
It was for me because I'm writing down notes on what the hell he's saying. It's like, it will be out when? Later
But
this year.
to me, that means just before Christmas.
I think it's going to be earlier than that.
Yeah, I think it'll be earlier because they want to get all the 14 branded sports games out on that.
Yeah, by just before, I do mean like
November.
Early November, end of October.
Yeah.
When most things launch, most things that you want for Christmas launch then.
Okay, fair point. Yeah, if we're talking that's just before Christmas.
Yeah, like Christmas
To be
games
fair,
normally around November, so.
Christmas sales start going up at about July now, so
Yeah.
just before Christmas is any time between July and December the 25th.
Really, I thought it was any time after December the 25th. That's when next Christmas starts.
Yeah, but that would be just before.
Yeah, the way some shops go, you wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
anything more to say about the Xbox?
Stupid.
But I just wanted to...
Stupid name.
At least it's not a
Apart from
Wii,
that.
right?
Yeah. They didn't make anything about arcade, Xbox Arcade, or any kind of, little thing like that.
I don't think those sort of things will change. It will still be there.
I think
Yeah,
Xbox
but they
Live will still be there, but Microsoft are kind of shying away from sort of indie developers and arcade
Yeah.
type style games.
I was afraid of, because I read an article today that said if that happened, then what happened was a lot of the big publishers and their developers, a lot of those guys branched off and made smaller games for iOS and Android, and they said basically they're not willing, based on what they've heard so far, to go back to the publishers, developers to make large Xbox and PlayStation games.
Which is odd
Yeah.
because recently there's been a lot of influx of indie games onto arcade.
Yeah, but if they're dropping that, then if they're not really putting the
So they're not going to put
focus
effort
on
into it.
yeah,
The whole issue around Xbox Live Arcade is partly due to the share of the cost of the game, of the profits of the game that Microsoft get is quite a lot, and the amount it costs to actually get a game published on Xbox Live Arcade is quite a lot. So it's kind of like it's not really a particularly indie developer friendly platform.
Yeah.
and it's going to be even less friendly if they don't invest in it.
Okay, so we've almost talked as long as the conference was.
One thing I'd like to say though,
Go
the
on.
new Call of Duty, the really good. That they said there's a lot of customization,
Oh yeah.
and that gets my juices.
Just
flowing.
hang up, John. Just hang up.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it. Stop recording right about now. Yeah, customization. They did compare the graphics between the last one and the new one, and the graphics were improved brilliantly. It looked amazing. But some of the things that they sort of pointed out to make it be like, oh, this is going to be amazing, cutting edge. The fact you can slide, you could do that in Medal of Honor. Just saying. Leaning round corners, you can do that on Fear.
It had a very Apple kind of feel to some of those announcements.
Yeah. Innovation.
It's like, yeah, that might be the first time for your series, but it's not the first time it's ever been done.
That's innovative for the way you thought about it, but
So well done, you played another game and thought, wow, that's amazing.
speaking of jobs,
So I'm
we
going to
were
innovate that into my next game.
So speaking of jobs, we were joking earlier when we were talking about the name that they were going to call it the new Xbox, going along with the whole iPad way of doing it. But to be honest, they didn't go far off that, calling it Xbox One. So
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you all for listening.
Yep. And
Well done.
If we've talked a lot about our PlayStation review thing, go listen to that if you haven't, and we'll be back for a Steam one if there is one soon.
And for E3. We've got
E3.
for E3.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll do an E3.
Give a
conference.
rundown for E3, yeah.
Half-Life 3.
Yeah.
We'll be back for the Half-Life 3 announcement.
Yeah.
When that happens.
With the Steam box tacked onto the end.
Oh, thank you for listening.
Yes, thank you. Bye.